Welcome back, everybody, to Out of Reese's podcast. I'm your host, Reese Shalvis, and we have a very special guest today. He's a part of the crew, the YouTube crew that I'm, trying to build here on YouTube. Christian,
I'm very special indeed.
or you could call him Rob Double X12. That's another term he goes by very commonly.
Or Mal West.
Yeah, Mal West. So we shot a Minecraft video a few years back, so that's where the Rob Double X12 came from. But so how you doing, man?
Pretty good. I'm very tired. But,
Oh yeah, me too.
That's what happens when you are staying up to 3 and 4 in the morning.
Clubbing.
Sure, yeah.
But
this man sent me a video of him at the club because I told a girl I was going to be at the club. But I didn't feel very good. So I was like, you know what? Just send me a video, bro. I'm going to post it on my story.
And it's like the club getting lit. Everyone's like, yeah. Music's pounding and everyone's like jumping up and down. It's pretty great.
Let me tell you, it worked.
What'd she say?
She didn't say a word.
That's when she hears this podcast.
And she like, oh, I should have hit this boy back.
But then she's
just-
seeing
I'm
you on the
just playing.
podcast and she's like, hey, yo, I'm going to hit this boy.
I'm just playing.
But we were actually trying to shoot a YouTube video a few weeks back that you still want to be a part of, right? So if you guys have heard of rejection therapy, I've kind of talked about this a little bit on previous podcasts, but essentially the base idea of it is you train yourself to get rejected so that you train yourself to be used to rejection so that when you get rejected in the future, you don't care as much or you don't get hurt as much. And so the game I bought is these playing cards called Rejection Therapy, where it gives you a challenge that you have to do once a day. And your goal is to be rejected. You win if you get rejected. So we were going to actually go out to like downtown Salt Lake and go play with the cards. And the whole crew was each going to play one card or pull one card and go do the challenge. And then we kind of just cycled through doing these different public challenges that are just, it's literally the stuff like, one of them was like, take a sip of someone, or ask if you could have a sip of someone's drink, or go ask a girl out on a date or something like that, right? Like it just different challenges like that, nothing that hurts you or the other person, just wholesome challenges to get rejected. And we're going to like keep a score counter. Whoever gets the most rejections basically wins. And it was going to be fun. So we still plan on doing that eventually. If you guys want to go check out the YouTube channel, just Reese Shalvis on YouTube. So I'll just start out by saying, like, on the Reese Shalvis channel, I want to essentially form together this crew of people, such as Christian and several other of my friends who you will see in the future and on this podcast, doing, different challenges and just fun videos and documentaries. Like right now I'm working on a music documentary featuring like Royal T. Zanatic. You just saw him on the podcast at the Royal T show, and his own personal podcast I did with him a little bit ago. So be sure to check out for that.
I was just thinking, I actually have some artists that I could like be like, yo, you want to be on a podcast?
Like just locally here in Salt Lake?
Not even in Salt, like local, but more where I'm from. I live in Heber right now, like Park City area.
Yeah,
Like I got some artists that would definitely be down for that.
that'd be sick. Eventually, I do want to get multiple mics, like 3 to 4 microphones, and just have like a cool like group podcast. And then eventually, the end goal, with everything is I really want to have just a massive podcast of like 8 people, and it's just us just hanging out, just talking, like no preparation. It's just us having a conversation, and we just do it like once a week or something like that. Cigars, lots of
big smoke, smoke cast.
But so what are some of your ambitions that you wanna that you're looking forward to reaching in the near future and the distant future?
I mean, I do music, and as of lately, I've been very quiet about that. I feel like I show some people. I mean, I show you some stuff,
Right.
But like I'm just kind of working on like a different sound or like multiple different sounds, and like I know I only show like probably like 2 people a lot of stuff, but I kind of just keep that on lock right now because I don't know. That's just what I'm feeling right now.
So is it like, do you know particularly why you keep that on lockdown? Is it because you're not ready to show people your production and what you're bringing?
Not necessarily. Cause
Or are you nervous about what people might think?
Nah, I mean, if someone doesn't like it, I'm just like, all right, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, I like.
Well, but now when some people do say they don't like it, and they have like actual advice, do you like take them like, oh, okay, that makes sense?
You gotta hear that,
right?
You gotta hear that
because I feel like there's a huge difference in just saying doesn't sound good, bro, versus I don't like this because of this.
Yeah, or like what do you think about replacing this drum or adding this snare? Because then it's like, okay, that's valuable because it's something to actually chew on. Whereas somebody might be like, yo, that's trash. I'd be like, all right, well, I'm glad that you were comfortable sharing that opinion with me.
Right. Yeah, and comfortable to like almost quite literally talk down about your work, but in a positive way, that like in a way that you can improve from.
Yeah.
And that's like, I feel like as a creator myself, I mean not particularly music, but like just anything, I have like hearing negative reception and feedback about your work, despite when you ask for it. Like at least for me, when I'm asking for negative feedback, like, hey, what do you think? What didn't you like about this? Especially when it's things I thought people would like, and they say, oh, I didn't like this or that. It still hurts, but I really appreciate it because I'm like, okay, now I know how to improve, but it still can affect me inside either way. I think that's just kind of how humans are naturally.
I mean, there's like that part of you that's like, oh, well, I want people to like what I do.
Right.
Or like, I want to be accepted, but you can't please them all. So, like, it doesn't really matter. Plus, like, if one person doesn't like my music, I mean, like, that's not the only thing I'm going for. I'm not trying to just become a musician or, like, because that's one of my biggest goals, but it's definitely kind of in line with, like, that psychology stuff I was talking to you about. Cause, like,
you've done a lot of research on, like, psychology, haven't you?
Yeah. Like, man, reading gets you far, bro. Let me tell you.
You can learn so much.
Yeah, like neuroscience and behavioral psychology is like so like, I don't know, it's just fascinating, and like that kind of goes hand in hand a little bit with music, because like I look at what the social norms are, like the hierarchy in the music industry, and it's like, I don't know, like, you know how everything kind of, there's like an era in every, I see it like every decade, kind of like there's like a new era of artists and music and like social views, because if you think about it, like music really does shape society. Like these people are influencers, and like I just look at music today and I'm just like, I don't know.
It's almost like there's certain music stereotypes, and that these stereotypes were formed because of these like genres of music, like if you look at metalheads, it's like there's a certain stereotype behind metalheads, not saying that they're all true or anything, but there's definitely like an overall like just point of view on people who listen to metal music, and then people who listen to rap music, and then people who listen to just like classic jazz or something, like there's just different genres and stereotypes that follow these different genres, and I think genuinely have a huge like one of the biggest impacts on society, more than most things.
Yeah. Well, and like a lot of that is people will like put themselves under a label, even if they're like, oh, I don't do that. I don't do labels. It's like, all right, well,
right,
you're wearing the clothes like for the fit, the genre.
Exactly.
You got the long hair and you listen to Metallica, or you got the chain and you listen to Cardi. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, that's like part of what I'm like, I don't care. That's part of why I'm kind of revising like the way I sound. And like it's been cool, and a lot of that does come from, okay, well, I'm going to work on my writing because there's stuff that's engraven in my mind that I don't want to be there because of my recent involvement, I guess, with like just the culture.
Right. It actually just got me thinking, like, how there's like a whole new era of music every decade or so, right? We have the 70s, 80s, 90s, and per specific genres and such, and then new genres. It got me thinking how part of the reason it changes so much every 10 years is because you have the vast majority of artists trying to essentially recreate the same type of music they're influenced by. But then you have the few artists, the smaller percentage of artists who are trying to innovate and be unique. And they're the ones who I feel like at the end of each decade are the ones who really change the music industry for the upcoming decade. And that's really seems why we have these different eras, in music.
Yeah.
People trying to innovate and bring up new genres and such.
Well, like I see, like, when I think of it like that, I almost think of like a line. You have like this decade. You just keep going, and it's like as you go forward, there's still pieces from each decade.
Right.
Because like you got bands like Pink Floyd in the late '60s, '70s, even the '80s, and then you have bands like Nirvana or Pearl Jam. Then you got Kanye West. Like you have these people that have like they've just, I don't know, they changed the game because of their different approaches to the genre that they were in. Like, you know what I mean? I guess when I say Nirvana, I'll leave out Pearl Jam because they're pretty, I don't know. Nirvana was a bigger deal, I guess. But, yeah, no, like, and people hold on to that, and you can kind of see that, like, just the way that the world has changed. Like, everybody's got, like, you got that group of people that's, like, listening to grunge and, like, indie and all that.
Right.
And then you got people that are listening to, like, rap, and maybe they listen to old school, but that's almost two different communities itself. But
well, I like to imagine, like, what if you brought several different genres and songs from this decade back to like the 50s and the 60s and stuff. Like people would be like, they'd either be like, whoa, this sounds amazing, what is this? Or they'd be like, what is this garbage? Just because there's such a culturally difference in the style of music from then versus now that who knows what they might think. They could think this is good or this is terrible, and it's just because they're so used to what they were listening to back then, because there wasn't really much kind of rap or hip hop back in the 40s and 50s. It was a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, I think like it would just take some people some time, and then there'd be like a total eargasm. Like they hear it and they're like, well, "Yo!" But only if we had our sound systems to give them.
Right.
If they're sitting with their old like, what is it? The thing you crank.
Just their analog
record.
like.
It's like a record player, but it's got the big horn looking thing.
When I think of that, I just think of SpongeBob, his record player that he has.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly. But no, I mean, I don't know. I'm not being super eloquent with my words right now, but the idea for me is like, okay, well, I just started listening to indie this year, and I was sleeping, bro. That genre is crazy, and I can kind of see where the morph is between like some of hip hop, some of indie, some of rock. Like,
right.
It's not, you don't got a table with a bunch of different bowls of sauce. You got big bowl of soup.
Dude, indie's become a lot more popular in recent years too.
Yeah.
Seeing these artists come up and you like just seeing how many listeners they have each month on just Spotify alone is like crazy. Like there's a specific artist I can think of, absolutely amazing. He goes by Los Retros.
Oh,
have you heard of him?
That's familiar.
Absolutely one of my favorite indie artists, and he's like starting to really pop off, I just recently found him like earlier this year too.
It's the energy is what I like, and like you can really feel that music, I guess. And there's so much more to it because indie is still like one of few genres that still is made up of bands. Like not every single not all of it's like bands. Like some people like produce like indie beats or
Right.
whatever, right? But like, bro, I don't know. Nothing will ever beat a band. Like, I don't care what anybody's opinion is on that. Like, nothing will beat a band.
Like multiple people
Yeah.
versus just one solo artist doing all of his own stuff.
Yeah. And like, I mean, that's what I want to do. I'm kind of this coming week I'm going to be meeting up with this girl that I've been friends with for a while. She's been in a few bands. I wasn't as open.
What does she play?
She plays guitar.
Oh, okay.
And she sings. She got a really good voice. And like, I don't know, it just kind of popped into my head. Like, I think I was just in the shower and I'm like, you know what, I need to hit her up and like actually send it, because she's invited me to a studio multiple times, and I've just been
that's so cool.
Yeah, I've just been like, I don't know, or like it just didn't work out, and like we're gonna do that on I can't remember what day it was. Probably, I think it was Wednesday, but it didn't work out. But you know, that's how it be though. That's how it is with music. It's like it's gonna work out the way that it's supposed to when it's supposed to, and that's when you're gonna make your best. Like, that's when you're gonna make your best.
Right.
You know what I mean? You just kind of gotta let it happen. With you know, within means. Like, you gotta still put the effort in.
Right.
You can't just be like, all right, I'm gonna make a song, vibe on the couch.
I mean, okay. kind of around like just making a song. I feel like we're in such a weird era right now of music, because back then it wasn't so easy to get your hands on equipment to make music, and now all you need is a laptop, and you can even just download free software. Maybe it won't be the best software, but anybody can literally just make sounds now, and like whether it sounds good or not, it still doesn't change that there's just anybody can make a song now, you know. Just because of our easy access to that kind of technology, even on our phones, right? You can download apps on your phone that just you can throw together a random beat and sounds together and make music. And that's why I feel like we've seen the most pop up of genres and new types of styles and music, is because of how much more access the world has to just making music in today's generation and era.
Oh yeah, exactly. Because like, and like that goes along with something I say all the time. Like, your greatest blessings are your greatest curses. Like, because like that's such a good thing. Like, you have so many different perspectives and visions that people got and are putting out there for the world to see, to like be heard, you know. But at the same time, you also got a lot of trash music, kind of like.
Well, and that's just normal to come with this much saturation of music. Well, there's definitely going to be good stuff and just a lot of bad stuff.
Yeah, like everybody's gotta have fun.
Right.
And that's what a lot of it is. I mean, even some people that get kind of big, they're like, oh, this kind of was just starting out to be for fun, you know, like as a hobby. And like, I don't know, it's cool. Like, I'm glad things are the way that they are, because, you know, you do have artists that, you know, I have my way of thinking, other people have their way of thinking. And like, it's just so interesting that like, it doesn't matter who you are. Like, you can pop off like that.
Yeah, exactly.
You can be heard if you know the right people, you know, the marketing strategies that are going to work for you in that moment in time with that song. Like, there's so many factors, but it's like, it's still easier, you know, ease of access. I mean, and if you don't know how to do something, what do you do?
Right.
You know.
Also, on the whole, like, kind of, there's a lot of bad music. There wouldn't be so much good music if it wasn't for the bad music, because there really needs to be that comparison. Yeah. You know, because how can everything be good if there's no comparison for what's considered bad? Yeah. You know what I mean?
And that's a good perspective, because it's like, you know, it helps me gauge where I'm at, because I like hear like, you know, there's stuff I really don't believe in that some people do, which is fine, you know, to each their own. Right. But like, it just helps me like see like where I'm at with like how I feel about things. I'm like, okay, this person's doing that, you know, they can do them, and I kind of like use that to like check myself, like, what am I doing? Like, because we're all doing stuff that, you know, we all have our morals, but we're all definitely kind of cheating them a little bit at sometimes, you know. So it kind of helps me check that, like, what drugs am I doing? You know, I shouldn't be doing anything that's gonna like hurt my body. You know, because like I used to have a big problem with that, like in 2020, and I don't know, that was a whole thing. But like, yeah, or just like what I'm saying, I guess. I don't know. I'm kind of going off right now.
No, I get what you're saying. Kind of I had a question for you because since you're kind of going into psychology and such, so you plan on going to school for that, right? Like, are you still kind of debating on that, or are you gonna go?
I'm going to go. It's just a matter of when and where. I mean, I have an idea of where I'll go. I think I'll probably end up at the University of Utah, and then see if anything takes me to another school, whether it's national or international. But yeah, no, my end goal with psychology is doctorate for sure. Because if like with psychology, it's like, you know, that's cool if I want to like help, you know, talk to people about their issues, but I'm trying to do some research. I'm trying to I want to do some groundbreaking on some stuff because, you know, we don't really understand that much about the human brain. I mean, you know, everybody has their theories and stuff, but
We know so little about it. Like actually, I feel like we know how like neurons work and stuff, but like the actual, like the really in depth parts of our brain, like we don't understand. We don't even understand what, on a scientific level, we don't even understand consciousness. You know, and that's a whole topic I have planned for another podcast. So I don't want to go into the consciousness today, but with your knowledge of psychology that you've personally studied and such, why would you say music influences and affects the human population as much as it does?
That is super. Oh,
I know it's
a deep one. You might have to have me. You might have to have me on and talk about this again specifically, but I mean, I don't know. People are pretty impressionable. I'm pretty impressionable. You know, if I think something's dope, I'm probably gonna be like, all right, I kind of want that, or
right.
I'll, you know, there's like someone you look up to, I guess. Like we talked about that. Like if someone looks up to someone, they're like, oh, I want to be like them. I want to have this car, like, you know, whatever. People see that and they see someone who has it all figured out, right? Because that's kind of what Hollywood and like the music industry does. Because that's like you're selling a product, right, essentially.
Well, when it comes to like looking up to somebody, there's definitely been genres of music, like, and I can give some examples, like lo-fi type music. I've listened to probably hundreds of hours of lo-fi music, but I couldn't really name any lo-fi artists because I don't follow it like that. But that lo-fi genre just strikes with me so much, just in my mind and with my body. Like I feel like it's a huge part of like just different parts of me, like how I can relax and just think clearly. But you know, there's not any particular lo-fi artist that I look up to because of them. I just enjoy the music so much, but I do not follow the artists, you know. So I couldn't name lo-fi artists.
Well, and that's something cool about genres that are more. Those are like humble genres. Like if you think about it, it's a genre that isn't involved with the rock star, like the superstar.
Right.
You know,
there's often not even lyrics in lo-fi.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And if it is, it's like ad libs and stuff.
It's more like, hey, this is a banger. Respect to the producer, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not.
That's actually the respect to the producer. That's such an interesting way to put it, because throughout most decades of music that are recorded, it's usually been looking at the vocalist, the main singer, the artist who's behind it, right? And like the Beatles. When you think of the Beatles, you don't usually think of, or like if you think of rock music, right? Usually you think, I feel like most people I've talked to, at least, will usually have their bands and the artists within those bands pop into their head. Like say like rock, you have Green Day, like punk rock, right? You have like Green Day, Blink-182, And when I think of those bands, it just like Billy Joe Armstrong pops into my head. He's the main, the lead singer behind Green Day, or Red Hot Chili Peppers, And so it's like you usually associate these music genres with your favorite artists and such, who like you can visualize what they look like, sound like, and such. But with genres like lo-fi, especially when you're someone who just listens to it like me and doesn't know the artist, you almost think of it as just a spectrum of ambience and just beautiful sounds that you can just envelop your mind in, and you're not particularly thinking of an idol or a person. It's just, and so I like that kind of perspective you have on it, saying it's a much more like humble genre.
Yeah,
and such.
Like with you saying that, like I just think about, I don't have a problem with like any specific genre at all, because there's no reason to. That's just music, But you have like subliminals. It's the subliminal messages that are like sinking into your mind, like
right.
It's like eating junk food versus healthier food. Like I used to listen to whatever, but like I kind of just pay attention to like, all right, well, what is this dude talking about? Is he talking about like how much better he is than other people, and like how big his woman's boobs are? Like
right.
I don't really care, bro. It just it makes me kind of sad for like that person, because it's like that's his biggest flex.
I wonder. It makes me wonder if there's like, if you could consider, and again, I like to say the word spectrum, because I feel like most things are on a spectrum more than most people like to think, but like that kind of side of things is like, I wonder if you could call it like ego music or something. You know what I mean? Because usually there's it goes deep enough to where people will essentially have such an ego above their head that they feel like
Ego music?
Yeah, no, let me explain.
That sounds fire.
Right. Yeah, I just thought of that, but it's like they just rap about themselves, their life of riches and girls, and you know what I mean, and they're like, "Oh, I'm doing all these drugs. I'm doing all these women. I'm living this rich life, traveling here, riding in my foreign and all that." And then you got, then it can kind of, it is like a spectrum. It kind of can start going into where they kind of rap about that, or kind of sing about that, or kind of, whatever genre it is that they're singing, and then it can go straight down to where they're not singing anything. It's just some sound and music. You know what I mean? And it's just, I guess, kind of where you pick what on the spectrum where you resonate with. It's like that's likely kind of where your influences are probably coming from.
Yeah, well, and like you can kind of tell whether someone's making music for the people or for them. Because if they just talk about themselves, or like they're like just them, or like just their family, and it's like, okay,
right,
all right, but when you got something real to say, then come back to the mic, because that's when I want to hear what you have to say. When it's real, like, I mean, but it's weird, because like I remember in high school, people would roast the rappers who had something to say, and the people that didn't, everybody thought they were fire. It's like, what? Because it sounds good? I mean, I get that, but that's the only objective. I don't understand where the disconnect is between having something to say and like
just making something sound good,
something sound incredible. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? You had bands like that. You did. Like, a lot of that was in the metal genre, in my opinion, or like the 70s with like classic rock. Like, you have bands that are like, oh, they're saying something real, and they have a really unique sound, and they have so many layers to their music. There's so, like, I mean, you got some bands have albums that you can flip and play backwards, and it's like, who takes the time to do that? But like, they did that because they could, and they cared. The passion is there. It's not, all right, let's pop out this song, quantity over quality. Some people even are confused with, they think that it is quality over quantity. They think that they're in that mindset, but they still, maybe it sounds good, but they're following the same pattern that everybody's following right now. And I don't know, like, complicated topic. Like, not really, but
we'll definitely have to go deeper into it in another episode as well, because it's the thing about music is there's so many factors and variables and just such broad. I don't even know if this is a real word. But I just invented this broadativity. But to music, there's so much to music that not only goes into it and what defines music, and because there really is like a putting labels on things is like kind of dangerous in the sense that like let's take music, right? I'm gonna just make a sound. I'm gonna snap, right? It's like, was that music or no? People would just say that's sound, and then some people could even break it down to, well, it's just a very basic root of music, essentially, right? Just a single sound is just the root of music, I guess you could say, because then you start adding other roots to music, like say this, and then like a slap or something like that, and then you can like kind of start adding stuff, right? And then you start getting a beat, and people would say, oh, that's music. So at what point does it actually become music versus just a single solid sound? So I think it's kind of beautiful in the sense that almost any form of sound can be considered music because it's essentially the essence and root of what makes up music.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, technically anything auditory. Because, I mean, you can use anything. You could use the sound of a bus crashing into, like, a popcorn factory. Like, I don't know, but, like, you could use any sound. Like, you could use that. What would that sound like? Who knows?
My man really said popcorn factory.
Maybe we need to figure this out. This could be a unique snare.
Dude, I mean, we could definitely. I mean, look, we got the music set up right behind the camera. We could do that right after this podcast.
Yeah.
Experiment with popcorn sounds and
throw down a quick beat of me hitting my window with a frying pan.
Right.
Just a quick recording, quick iPhone.
Pitch it down a little bit. Maybe add some reverb. Just
yeah, bro.
Like, isn't that really all that music is? Just taking sounds and
for some people,
right? Like,
yeah. I mean, bro, you got like people will listen to anything, bro. So
there's actually this real quick. There's this on that real quick. There's this form of music that surprisingly I like. I don't listen to it regularly. Very rarely do I listen to it, but it's kind of nice to just listen to almost as a white noise type music because that's what it kind of feels like. But it's called drone metal. Have you heard of it? It's like I don't even know how to describe it other than this. Essentially, it's like imagine the typical like metal guitar sound, right? They'll play a single note, and that single note just plays and plays just nonstop, and then might slowly shift into a higher note, and then play for another 30 seconds to a minute, then shift into a lower note. And it's just like, while it's so slow and just very repetitive in that sense, it's almost like a nice white noise music that you can just like kind of like zone off to. It's you don't have to focus on it. You don't have to focus on anything. It just helps you kind of just like relax and just zone out of the world and enter a new world in your mind or whatever.
So it's like literally droning.
Is that the actual term? Droning?
I guess like it drones on.
Yeah, it's
That's
like
interesting.
It's really cool. I can't think of the band that I was listening to like a year ago, but
I'll check it out. That's interesting. Because that's another thing. That's my biggest thing. Music artists should listen to every single everything that they can get their hands on. Because especially if you're a producer, because it's like if you're gonna be sampling stuff, you don't have to sample. I still, if you're a producer specialist, still believe this to be true. Like you need to be listening to everything. Like you need to check out oh, this album came out in the 50s. All right, I'm gonna check it out. See what it sounds like. Oh, this is a country album. Well, that's tough. I'm still gonna listen to it, see what it sounds like. It doesn't even have to be. It's just like experimenting and be like, what is this person's angle, or like, what is this genre? Like, what do they talk about?
And if you think about it, it's almost like it's like everything is influenced from something else. Nothing is truly 100% original.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely can be original in the sense nobody's done this exact combination or this type of thing, but it derived this influence for why this thing exists derived from something else.
Yeah.
And so I think when you're trying to think, how can I create a new type of music? I want to be unique, bring something original. saying listen to everything. Just seek inspiration from as much diverse things as you can find, because that's where you'll start pulling inspiration from. Oh, I like this about this, this about this. How can I combine these 5, 6 different things from these different topics and genres to make something unique? And then you'll just kind of figure it out, and it'll either sound good or it'll sound bad. And if it sounds bad, then you start over and try something else.
Yeah. I think about that, what you said, like listen to everything. Just listen to everything. Listen to everything, bro.
Listen to everything.
I mean, like, no, well, like, that goes along with everything, bro. Like, even politics. Like, people that are, like, all wrapped up with, like, one idea. And it's like,
right.
Yo, listen to everything, bro. Like,
right.
Like, expand your view.
Right.
But.
Or even, like, financially, too. Like if you want to be successful, the most successful people in the world probably learned from everything, right? And as many successful people as they could learn from, as many books as they could read, as many things as they researched on, just different things too. And that's where they found their inspiration to do whatever it is that made them financially successful.
Yeah, it's not get good at math. It's get good at everything that you can see that you are able to get good at. But how do you know that you can get good at something if you haven't tried it?
Now there is a line though. There's certain things that exploring certain subjects are even then. So I was gonna say exploring certain subjects may not even be related at all to what you're trying to do, but even then you could still discover something. You know what I mean? You might even still be able to, even if it has nothing to do with what you're trying to work for. There's always little things of inspiration that you might even still be able to take from it and somehow incorporate into what you're doing, despite it being completely unrelated.
Well, think about this. Should a musician know how to garden? This isn't like a symbolic question.
I would say, I mean, you can make, okay, I'm about to make it symbolic, but I mean, in terms of what most people would say, most people would probably say no because they're trying to focus on music. But like, should a musician garden? Here's why I'd say yes, is because maybe they even find inspiration just from being out in the garden with nature, and they just like, it could trigger different, just changing up your scene, right? Being in the garden versus in the studio can trigger different emotions and responses to those emotions, giving you a different thought pattern, which you can derive inspiration from, because now you have something more to go off of, more emotions that you can write about, more experience and stuff.
Yeah. So like what I was thinking is, like, when I ask that question, my answer is yes. But my answer is still yes if you were to ask about a Wall Street broker. I would still say yes, they should know how to garden.
So just like anyone you really ask, say, should this person know how to garden?
They should know how to garden. They should know how to build.
Now, can you explain why? Now, why specifically garden and not something else like hiking or just something else? Like why specifically gardening?
Think about the way our food system works. Somebody at the top of a company, racking in the hundreds. But below them you have manufacturing and stuff like that. Genetically modified food that's being put into containers and shipped off to grocery stores around the nation. How sensitive of a system is that? One thing could go wrong and that's over.
Right.
So what happens to your success if you have no means of providing for yourself, no self sustainability?
I get what you're saying. So you're basically, as soon as that kind of middle person between some of the other steps throughout the process is cut out, the whole thing collapses.
It does.
And then you have to go back to gardening yourself, pulling your own veggies, right?
Pretty much.
Now, and you could look at that metaphorically and literally.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like,
well, there's symbolism in all things. Like, there is symbolism in the fact that you need to be providing for yourself.
Right.
like that. I mean,
Or at least know how to provide for yourself, especially in the event that your chain does break.
yeah, yeah, because I mean, we live in a time like unprecedented times. You know what I mean? Like, you got stuff going on in other nations where you got like actual war and people talking about war, threatening it, and it's like the threats that are being made would be devastating. They'd be so devastating to like
Right.
everybody involved, right? I mean, you saw that something as simple as a coronavirus did what it did to the world. What happens with a global power that does something like, releases something more dangerous than that, or
Right.
whether it's chemical, bio warfare, it could be a number of different things, but it's like that's where the learn everything comes in,
Right. Yeah.
because success is so like it's a funny word because it doesn't mean being rich, except that it does. It doesn't mean being wealthy in the sense of physical money. Like, if you're rich, then you're set. Like you're good. Like, you know that you are well off, whether it has to do with money or like the relationships in your life, like whatever,
You know, real quick, back on that, on the the chain, the process, right? Having from the gardener to the store to you or whatever, right? How there's those middle people that if one gets cut out and it collapses the whole chain. I think you see that the most in societies like here, like the United States, and like just really first world societies, because we're so reliant on everything for something, right? You want to get food? Okay, you go to the grocery store and buy food, and you are relying on someone else selling you the food, and you're relying on the fact that somebody drove the food to that store, and you're relying on somebody loaded that truck, and then you're relying on somebody put the food from the sacks into the truck, right? And then you're relying on people who picked the food and then who planted the food. And I mean, now obviously you can grow your own garden in the backyard, and but for the most part we're relying on everything. These microphones, I couldn't make this myself. I had to rely on somebody else to make it, ship it, send it to me, and then rely, this couch or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like, I really realized that with some different jobs that I've had, like, I don't know anything, and I wish that I did. So,
Right.
like, like you feel like it, I don't know, like, just when you're learning stuff like that, it's humbling. And that's another thing is like, if you just get good at something and you're like, oh, I'm the best at this, that's good enough for me. I'm rich. I'm chilling. They keep their money in their account, that's not humbling at all. If you're constantly working on what's next, what's my next way to help provide for the world? What's my next way to like give? Like, if that, I don't know.
Well, even like we're even relying on just the fact that our money is printed. Somebody had to print it, right? Or somebody had to create the software that holds our online money in our bank accounts. And then you had to rely on somebody who built the bank. It's just crazy how much humans are relying on someone else for stuff nowadays. And but that's kind of how technology. That's kind of how society has to evolve if it wants to become more technologically advanced and more connected as a society.
Yeah, well, and there was, like my car, it broke down. It had broken down, and I was sure that it was the alternator because it made sense. It was the battery, bro. The battery had my car shutting down while I was driving. You're telling me that if an EMP hits, I can't drive my car? Right?
Right.
I can't go nowhere unless I hop on a bike?
Or walk.
I'm not going to do that. Like, you know what
Why
I mean?
not? Why don't you want to just walk? Walking's good for you.
I mean, nobody's going to EMP my bike.
mean, nobody's gonna EMP your legs either.
They both healthy. Yeah, nah, I mean, I don't know. It's a weird world we live in, man.
It's weird. It really is. Like once you really like learn to not only open your mind but open your eyes, essentially, like, and see how the systems actually work, you kind of realize how the world likes to put on such a
Like a pretty mask.
yeah, like such a fake mask of systematic professionalism, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it's essentially what it really boils down to is someone doing something for someone else. And that's how every system works in the country. In the world, sorry.
Yeah.
Is either somebody doing for something else when it comes to like government and just societies, and even countries where families are still providing for themselves, they're doing stuff for their families, for themselves. It's just it makes, when you can see the world like that, it almost feels like systematic in integrated systems like that just feel almost fake. Like you said, like a corporate mask, or like like it's just kind of weird, and you just like, but it does, I feel like it does help. It helps me see the world differently and allows me to know more what I actually want to do with my own, free will and free thoughts, when you can kind of see the world that way.
Perspective. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's world's crazy. People are crazy, and I mean, I don't really have much more on that.
Yeah,
but that's definitely another topic we could go into another day. A lot deeper into.
Yeah.
But we're kind of running out of time for today. Do you have any last thoughts?
Stay in school.
Stay in school.
It's good for you.
I would say explore everything. Try to learn as much as you can. Learn everyone's perspectives and why they have that perspective, because who knows, if you can learn why people have certain perspectives, and as many as you can, you're almost certain to change your own perspective, because it's you opening your mind more to actually accept, okay, this person has this, especially in politics or really anything. It's like, this person has this perspective, I disagree with it, but now why does he have this perspective? If you can really just allow them to see why you have this perspective, then, so that's what I'd say. Just open your mind, learn as much as you can from as diverse people as you can, different professions, different, really anything.
Unity.
I like that.
Pretty much.
So thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate this.
Of course.
Your time and everything.
It'll be fun to do one where we're like, we're sitting down, we're like, all right, this is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
This was fun on the fly.
This was a lot more improvised than most of my podcasts are. You're going to be there this Saturday, November 5th at
I'm going to try.
I really hope you can. I'm going to need the help running this podcast.
Yeah, no, I'm going to do what I can.
Cuz Devon dropped out. He ain't going.
Okay. Yeah, no, I can see what I can do, cuz I would like to be there for multiple reasons.
Right.
So,
but yeah, so watch out in the future for the Storm Tour 2 Salt Lake City on November 5th podcast. Going to be interviewing artists like Lebo and a bunch of other local artists from out of state and within state. It's going to be crazy. I'm nervous, dude. I'm nervous about this podcast, but I'm excited.
I'm just trying not to think about it.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be crazy. I'm glad you're able to do this podcast before you do this one on Saturday, if you're able to go, because it kind of gives you a taste. Because this is the first podcast you've ever done, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
It's pretty cool.
Pretty sick, right?
I mean, it would be very scary to be like on a big podcast. Like, imagine being on like Joe Rogan. That would be scary.
Although, I feel like if Joe Rogan was the one interviewing me, I'm on his podcast, I wouldn't be scared at all, because I know he knows how to carry a conversation one-sided if he needed to. I'm still trying to learn how to do that, just in case I ever have a guest that doesn't know how, isn't as responsive as most of my guests are,
Mhm.
you know? And so it's,
Yeah, no, that's valid. Like, you're gonna have people that.
so I guess not being on a podcast that big is what scares me. What scares me is being the host of a podcast that big, you know?
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine, like, just interviewing massive people, like
field researchers,
Right,
like
or
musicians,
even
writers,
political people, you know? Like,
Oh, dude,
that's
yeah.
crazy. Like, how do you, I can't even think how I'd start that conversation. Like, so, what's up? You know, like, it's just
Yeah.
crazy. But
Especially when you're interviewing really vibrant people
right,
like Alex.
Alex Jones.
Yeah, Alex Jones.
Dude, that'd
or,
be
like Kanye.
that'd be
like,
crazy.
just
Having them on Out at Reese's, that'd be insane.
I would,
It's like, all right, come to my dad's basement. That's where I'm shooting the podcast.
yeah, bro.
No, but by the time I'm interviewing people like that, I'll have my own studio and
Right.
and stuff. But so, are they gonna
I
be
hope.
seeing you in the future on future podcasts, future YouTube videos?
Affirmative.
Do you want to plug anything like Instagram or not yet?
You know what? Look me up on Instagram. Mao MAO _ WST.
WSC Mal
Check
West.
out my 0 posts, but stay tuned.
All right. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to follow the podcast on social media, it's just Out at Reese's. It's spelled REESES. It's on Twitter, Instagram. Still working on the Facebook. Well, the Facebook's actually live, and I just haven't posted anything except the profile picture and stuff.
I feel that.
But anyways, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Like, subscribe, follow wherever you're listening, daytime, nighttime. Have a good one. Peace.